Today on How It's Made Dream Cars, the Bugatti Veyron, the fastest work of art in the world. The Cité de l'Automobile in Mulhouse, France, was formerly known as the Schlumpf Collection. It houses the largest collection of classic Bugattis in the world. While most car companies were founded by entrepreneurs with a purely technical background, Bugatti's creator, Ettore Bugatti, came from a family of well-known Italian artists. That artistic heritage played a vital role in the design of Bugatti cars, long considered among the most beautiful ever made. But art never got in the way of speed. In fact, Bugatti built one of automotive history's most successful race cars, the Type 35. After Ettore and his son Jean died, the Bugatti brand went dormant in the early 1960s. But Volkswagen bought it in 1998, and Bugatti came roaring back to life with the Veyron, the fastest production car in existence. Built here at its ancestral headquarters in Molsheim, France, it's the most powerful and expensive production car in the world. The cars are made here in a building referred to as the Atelier. The people at Bugatti think of Veyron as much more than just a car. To them, it's an automotive work of art. Each car begins life here in the design department. As futuristic as the Veyron may look, it still features the famous Bugatti horseshoe-shaped grille, developed by Ettore. Ettore's son, Jean, was a talented stylist. He created sweeping curves that came to define the Bugatti look, and those curves reappear on the Veyron. Lightweight and strong, carbon fiber is the ideal material for constructing a supercar like the Veyron. Here, a machine called the plotter cuts a sheet of carbon fiber into the required shapes. The material, which is stored at -4 degrees Fahrenheit to preserve its form, is heated to +64 degrees just prior to cutting. And Bugatti uses different kinds of fiber depending on what part of the car they're building. Where certain components require flexibility, others need rigidity. A worker positions the carbon fiber in a mold. To create a part, she must layer multiple sheets or plies of the fiber in a specified order. This layering process adds strength. To avoid creating any wrinkles, she carefully cuts and overlaps the material at the corners. Although she makes it look easy, this job requires an enormous amount of skill and experience. Each layer of fiber must be carefully positioned to ensure maximum performance. The pattern of the fibers must be perfectly aligned. The mold then comes here to these giant ovens, which are called autoclaves. Autoclaves apply a combination of heat and pressure to cure the carbon fiber. After 4 hours of baking at 275 degrees Fahrenheit, under 87 psi, the part is ready. Workers remove it from the mold. While almost all the work of creating a Veyron is accomplished by hand, sometimes a robot comes in handy. Here, a CNC machine trims off excess material and drills any necessary holes. Next, the parts come here, where skilled craftsmen prepare the surface. They begin by sanding with a heavy grit material. They repeat this time-consuming, painstaking process multiple times, with increasingly finer grits until the surface is perfectly smooth. This technician performs a highly detailed quality control check. She inspects every inch of the surface, marking any imperfections that need to be corrected. There's no time restraint. Each component must be absolutely flawless. Using precision calipers, she carefully measures the diameter of the holes to ensure they're the correct size. Once the components have passed inspection, workers mount them on a monocoque chassis. Like tailors putting together a suit, they make sure the parts fit together correctly. The weave pattern must align, and they even measure the gaps. Bugatti designers look for inspiration in everything, from pigments to chunks of crystal. Here, designers work on the blue-themed Veyron, deciding how best to match different tints to the interior and exterior components of the car. Their inspiration is the racing color that adorned many early Bugattis. Cars racing in the first half of the 20th century bore the racing color of their country of origin. The French racing color was blue, and blue has become a distinctive color for Bugatti. Like nearly every other step in the creation of a Veyron, the painting process is accomplished by hand. And once again, skill and experience are critical to doing the job right. Here, a painter applies layer upon layer of a clear coat. Often, customers request a clear finish that reveals the carbon fiber structure underneath. But customers can also choose any color they desire. It could even be the shade of red found on a favorite tie. To give the color depth, the painter may apply as many as 10 or more coats. One look at this colossal 16-cylinder engine and its 7-speed direct-shift gearbox transmission, and you begin to understand why the Bugatti Veyron holds the record for the fastest production car in the world. Veyron engines are hand-built. Two experts build each one piece by piece from a combination of aluminum, titanium, steel, and magnesium. The process is so meticulous, it takes 2 weeks to build a single engine. Here, they install the crankshaft in its housing before bolting on temporary spacers to hold it in place. This will allow them to rotate the engine block in preparation for the next step. It's now time to install the pistons, which can only be inserted from above. The connecting rods are made of titanium, illustrating Bugatti's famous flair for detail. Ettore Bugatti's initials can even be found here, where they will be invisible once installed. The worker rotates the piston rings to prevent knocking and to effectively seal off the combustion chamber from the crankshaft. The worker then oils the piston by hand to prepare it for installation. A clamping device uniquely designed to hold pistons allows him to carefully situate the component before sinking it into position. Rotating the engine block, he removes the temporary extensions to prepare for the next step of attaching the rods to the crankshaft. This part is called the connecting rod cap. After applying grease, the technician bolts the cap onto the connecting rod, securing it around the crank pin. He then uses a hand tool to loosely fasten the bolts in place. Then a custom-made device finishes up the job, simultaneously tightening the fasteners to the precise torque specified by the engineers. A monitoring system keeps track, ensuring that all bolts are correctly tightened. Now, the technicians carefully lower the bearing case onto the crankcase, sealing in the crankshaft. The finished 8-liter 16-cylinder engine will produce 1,200 horsepower at 6,400 RPM. And it will have a torque of 1,100 foot-pounds between 3,000 and 5,000 RPM. First, the technicians have to install the lower intake manifold. There are 2 upper sections of the intake manifold, each feeding 8 cylinders. Like the bulk of the engine, these components are aluminum. Look closely and you can see a tiny version of Ettore Bugatti's initials on the heads of the aluminum bolts that secure the manifold. The engine is now complete. It's time to transfer it to the testing facility and start it up. The engine spends 8 hours on the testing rig as technicians rev it up to its full power and torque in multiple cycles. While monitoring the performance, the technicians also run in the engine. There will be no need for customers to break it in slowly. The exhaust manifolds and turbochargers glow red hot, their surface temperatures reaching up to 1,470 degrees Fahrenheit, with exhaust gases at 1,800 degrees. The engine is now completely assembled, tested, and run in. A technician performs the final quality check and prepares it for transport. This quad-turbocharged 8-liter behemoth produces 1,200 horsepower. Unique among production engines, it has 64 valves, but thanks to careful engineering, it only needs 4 camshafts. At its top speed, the engine inhales 5,300 liters of air per minute, as much as you breathe over 5 days. Nearly every inch of a Bugatti Veyron interior is covered in leather. With hundreds of pieces of leather to prepare, it takes 12 to 15 cowhides to upholster a Veyron. And of course, it's all done by hand. Ettore Bugatti once said of his cars, "Nothing is too beautiful and nothing is too expensive." His son Jean agreed, believing tailor-made service should be one of Bugatti's highest priorities. Customers can choose from one of more than roughly 45 colors of leather. Bugatti sources these hides from cows raised high in the mountains of Austria. That environment is free of mosquitoes and barbed wire, so the cow hides are nearly flawless. But inevitably, there will be a few irregularities. This artisan spreads a hide on a specialized table, which uses a clamping device to stretch the leather tight, allowing for close inspection of the surface. A bright, even light helps the worker meticulously examine every inch of the hide. Wherever she finds even the tiniest flaw, she circles it with a special pencil. While the flaws may simply be naturally occurring wrinkles or dents, they must be marked and avoided. Steering clear of the marked flaws, the craftswoman lays a set of stencils on the leather. These represent the leather required to upholster a door. She carefully traces the outlines of each stencil on the hide. She then removes the stencils to clear off the leather and make room for her scissors. It's the same procedure a seamstress uses to make a dress, but in this case, it's a car door that's getting an outfit. Given Bugatti's emphasis on custom work, it's no surprise the artisan does her cutting by hand. Clipping divots at intervals along the edges will make it easier to align the leather properly. It's important that all the pieces be precisely the same thickness. This device shaves the underside of the leather to the same prescribed depth. In this case, nearly half the original thickness. To prevent bulkiness where the pieces overlap, an operator uses a purpose-built machine to shave the edges of the leather down even further. This process, known as skiving, is just one precision element of fine leather craftsmanship. Ettore Bugatti was known to have a great passion for leather work. The machine this artisan uses simultaneously stitches and trims the pieces as she works. Bugatti's attention to detail in upholstering the Veyron is a throwback to the early days of car manufacture, when specialized coach builders made custom interiors for each car. As she works, the interior of the car door begins to take shape. With a steady hand, a skilled craftswoman applies a decorative stitch using a pale blue thread on dark blue leather to create contrast. A popular customer choice, this stitching technique is called quilting. A finished example of this style of decorative stitching will cover an armrest that forms part of the center console. When it comes to leatherwork, the possibilities are nearly endless. Customers can even choose a woven pattern for their upholstery. A worker now begins the painstaking process of attaching the leather to its substructure. He begins by carefully and thoroughly wedging a section of seam into a slot. Next, he brushes a glue onto the substructure and carefully brings the leather over it. This glue is a polyurethane-based adhesive that remains flexible even after it cures. To work properly, the glue must be thermally activated. Here, the upholsterer uses a heat gun to do the job. A flat handheld device removes any air pockets that would compromise the adhesion and ensures that the leather hugs the substructure tightly. The door panel has been fully upholstered and trimmed. But will it fit? To ensure that all the dimensions are correct, a worker attaches the panel to a mock-up door. A quality control inspector then verifies that all levers and knobs are in perfect working order. She also uses a spacer to examine the divide between the upholstery components. These gaps must be uniformly the same width. Bugatti makes just 40 Veyrons per year on average. And like other works of art, this supercar is a limited edition. Only 450 of them will ever be made. Bugatti calls its 1,100 square foot production facility the Atelier. Instead of a typical assembly line found in most car factories, the Veyron is assembled at individual stations. Here, a technician unites the transmission with the engine and carefully bolts them together with the handheld ratchet. The mechanical components of the car's rear section have all been assembled. Technicians push the back end along a track to meet the front. The track sits below the floor and is covered by metal plates that open and close around the trolley feet as they move. The workers join the two sections with just 14 titanium bolts. Once again, they use handheld ratchets rather than power tools. The powerful mechanics of the Veyron have been assembled, but a Bugatti is not a Bugatti without its sculpted exterior. To bring the Veyron to its artful conclusion, technicians wear white gloves so as not to mar the surface with fingerprints. They install each component with the same care and precision used throughout. But before reaching this stage, an expert tests the car's systems at this rolling test station. These components are part of the rear wing assembly. At high speeds, the rear wing extends and provides massive downward force to keep the car firmly on the ground. And when the driver brakes, it immediately flips to a vertical position, adding the braking power of the hatchback to the car's powerful ceramic discs. Here, a specialist prepares the car for its final inspection. The car will spend 2 entire days at this station as he painstakingly buffs and polishes the car to shining perfection. He must ensure that every inch of the surface is absolutely flawless. If there are any imperfections, this man will find them. It's his job to give each Veyron its final inspection. No Bugatti leaves this facility without his approval. Surrounded by full-spectrum lights, the car undergoes a meticulous examination. If the inspector discovers any flaws, he will send the car back to the previous station for more polishing. Before a Veyron goes through final inspection and sign-off, an engineer takes the car out to a test track. and drives at 185 miles for a final dynamic approval test. The Bugatti Veyron has set 2 world records, one for the fastest production road car and one for the fastest convertible with the roof down. This orange and black Bugatti Veyron 16.4 Grand Sport Vitesse is the car that set that second record by going 253 miles per hour with its top down. And true to the Bugatti legacy, it looked good doing it. You need to go 93 miles an hour just to get this car out of second gear. It accelerates from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 2.6 seconds, from 0 to 120 in 7.1, and from 0 to 180 in 16 flat. It's no wonder the Veyron has achieved iconic status among supercars at warp speed.